As Christians, we believe in miracles, and the ark is no exception. Whether God provided Noah with divine knowledge or miraculous means, the message remains the same. God's hand was at work to preserve life and fulfill His plan for humanity. Miracles, by their very nature, defy our understanding, and the story of Noah's Ark is a powerful reminder that God operates beyond the limitations of human thought and reason. We often forget that God is not bound by time, space, or our notions of possibility. In His infinite wisdom, He orchestrated events in a way that both confounded the people of that time and continues to inspire awe today. The Ark, regardless of how it was constructed or what technology was involved, was a divine instrument of God's mercy and judgment. Let's not forget that the Bible itself tells us that not all life was wiped out by the flood. The Nephilim, the giants mentioned in Genesis, survived. Some hid in caves, as did many others. The Bible is rich with these details, but many believers overlook them. Could it be that God's judgment was focused on cleansing the earth of the wickedness that had overtaken it, while sparing certain beings for reasons beyond our understanding? The Nephilim are a mystery in Scripture, but their presence both before and after the flood raises intriguing questions. Genesis 6 verse 4 mentions the Nephilim as being present on earth both before and after the flood, prompting us to wonder how they survived and what role they played in the post-flood world. Their survival suggests that God's judgment, while sweeping, left room for certain elements of the pre-flood world to continue. This opens up theological questions about why God allowed these beings to remain and what purpose they served in the broader narrative of redemption. Could it be that their continued existence was part of God's plan to illustrate the enduring presence of evil in the world, even after divine judgment? Now, this isn't to say that the ark described in the Bible is purely symbolic or that it didn't exist as a physical structure. Scripture tells us in Genesis 6 verse 14 that God gave Noah specific instructions for building the ark, down to the dimensions and materials. But when we consider the possibilities of advanced preservation techniques, we see that God's guidance might have involved more than just gathering animals. The idea of DNA preservation is not foreign to modern science, and God, being all-knowing, could have instructed Noah to gather the genetic material necessary to repopulate the earth after the flood. This perspective doesn't diminish the power of the biblical account. Rather, it enhances our awe of God's sovereignty and His control over every aspect of creation. God's plan for the ark, whether purely natural or infused with divine knowledge, serves as a reminder that God's wisdom surpasses our limited understanding of history and science. In His infinite wisdom, God orchestrated events in a way that both confounded the people of Noah's time and continues to inspire awe today. The ark, regardless of how it was constructed or what technology was involved, was a divine instrument of God's mercy and judgment. Let's not forget that the Bible itself tells us that not all life was wiped out by the flood. The Nephilim, the giants mentioned in Genesis, survived. Some hid in caves, as did many others. The Bible contains rich details about this, but many believers overlook them. Could it be that God's judgment was focused on cleansing the earth of the wickedness that had overtaken it, while sparing certain people and beings for reasons beyond our understanding? The Nephilim remain a mystery in Scripture, but their presence both before and after the flood suggests that God's plan was intricate and multifaceted. Genesis 6 verse 4 mentions the Nephilim as being present on the earth both before and after the flood, raising questions about how they survived and what role they played in the post-flood world. The survival of the Nephilim and other beings after the flood indicates that God's judgment, while sweeping, left room for certain elements of the pre-flood world to continue. This opens up intriguing theological questions about why God allowed these beings to remain and what purpose they served in the broader narrative of redemption. Could it be that their continued existence was part of God's plan to illustrate the enduring presence of evil in the world, even after divine judgment? Additionally, when we examine the accounts from the Book of Enoch, a text referenced in the Bible, we see that angels, beings not of this world, played a role in teaching humanity skills like metalworking and warfare. Some of these beings, described as fallen angels, are said to have mingled with humans, giving rise to the Nephilim. While not included in the canon of Scripture, the Book of Enoch provides a fuller picture of the pre-flood world and God's ultimate plan. The existence of these beings points to the complexity of God's creation and the spiritual battles taking place both in heaven and on earth. The Bible refers to these beings as the sons of God, who saw the daughters of men and took them as wives. Genesis 6 verses 1-2. The result of these unions was the Nephilim, a race of giants known for their great strength and violence. Though not considered canonical by most Christian traditions, the Book of Enoch offers a deeper exploration into the nature of these beings, providing insights that challenge our modern understanding of the ancient world. This text portrays a pre-flood world far more complex and spiritually charged than many of us imagine, with divine beings interacting with humanity in ways that defy our current understanding of the spiritual realm. This brings us to an interesting possibility. Could Noah, a man who walked with God, have been given more than just physical instructions? Some ancient accounts suggest that Noah, or Zasudra, as he's called in other texts, may have had access to knowledge passed down for beings who were not of this earth. Beings who could have been God's messengers, or what we might call today angels or heavenly hosts. It's not a stretch to believe that God, who sent angels to deliver messages throughout Scripture, could have used these heavenly beings to assist Noah in his task. We know from the Bible that angels often played a role in communicating God's will to humanity. For example, the angel Gabriel was sent to deliver important messages to Daniel, Daniel 9 verse 21, Zechariah, Luke 1 verse 19, and Mary, Luke 1 verses 26-28. Could the same have been true for Noah? Throughout biblical history, angels have served as divine messengers and protectors, guiding humanity in times of great need. Noah's case may have been one such moment where angelic beings were instrumental in ensuring that God's plan for salvation through the flood was perfectly carried out. The possibility that angels played a direct role in the construction or design of the ark adds another layer of depth to the story, showing that God's intervention extended far beyond mere human effort. We often think of Noah's Ark as a singular event, but what if it was part of a larger cosmic plan? The Bible tells us that Noah was a preacher of righteousness, 2 Peter 2 verse 5, and it's possible that his obedience to God's instructions was part of a divine strategy that involved not only the survival of his family, but also the continuation of God's covenant with humanity. The ark could have been more than just a physical structure. It may have symbolized God's protection and his plan for the future of the world. The ancient texts, while not divinely inspired, may provide clues as to how God worked through Noah to bring about his purposes on earth. When we consider the larger context of the flood story, it becomes clear that the ark was not just a means of preserving life, but also a symbol of God's enduring covenant with humanity. The flood was a reset, but it was also a foreshadowing of the ultimate salvation that would come through Jesus Christ. In this way, Noah's Ark serves as a type of Christ, a vessel of salvation that points forward to the greater work of redemption that God would accomplish through his Son. Genesis 6-9 tells us that Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. If God gave Noah detailed plans to preserve life, it's not hard to believe that these plans might have involved technologies and designs far beyond our understanding. After all, the Bible tells us that God's wisdom is infinite and his ways are beyond our comprehension. Romans 11 verse 33. Whether God instructed Noah to build a traditional wooden boat or provided him with more advanced knowledge, the point remains that God was actively involved in ensuring the survival of life on earth. Noah's obedience was key, and his faithfulness in carrying out God's plan is a testament to his righteousness. Noah's unwavering faith in God, even in the face of an impossible task, serves as an example for us all. In a world that mocked and ridiculed him, Noah held fast to God's promises, trusting that the instructions he had received were not only true, but necessary for the preservation of life. This reminds us that obedience to God, even when it seems foolish to the world, is always the right path, leading to blessings we cannot foresee. In fact, the round ark described in the Babylonian tablets was no ordinary vessel. It was circular, almost like a giant basket, and could have served as a DNA bank or a way to preserve seeds and genetic material, another form of God's providence. While modern archaeologists debate whether this ark was actually built, we must remember that God's ways are higher than our ways, and his plans always have a purpose. The design of the ark, whether circular or rectangular, was part of God's plan to preserve life. Some scholars believe that the circular design described in the Babylonian tablets might have been more efficient in withstanding the turbulent waters of the flood. While the Bible does not specify the exact shape of the ark, it does provide dimensions that suggest a large, stable vessel, meant to survive the harsh conditions of the flood. This debate over the ark's design highlights that God's ways often challenge our expectations. Whether the ark was round or rectangular, one thing is clear: it was divinely crafted to endure the floodwaters and protect its inhabitants. The circular design found in the Babylonian tablets raises the possibility that Noah's Ark was more advanced than we typically imagine, blending divine intervention with human ingenuity in ways we're only beginning to understand. Could the Ark's circular design symbolize more than just physical protection? Perhaps it was meant to preserve life not only in the short term, but also to ensure humanity's long-term survival. The Bible teaches that God's creation is inherently good, and his desire is to see it flourish. The ark could represent his covenant with humanity, assuring that despite judgment, there is always hope and redemption.